RCMP has finally confirmed it. The exact movements of Daniel Martell in the hours before Lilly and Jack Sullivan vanished. For weeks, the case has been a storm of speculation. Parents clung to hope, neighbors whispered theories, and strangers on the internet pieced together their own maps of truth. But speculation is fragile. It bends. It misleads. What investigators revealed today is not rumor. It is not theory. It is fact, stamped, logged, and time-stamped across multiple sources of evidence. And these aren't just trivial notes in a police file. They're revelations. Each detail may seem small, almost forgettable. A coffee purchase, a truck on a roadside camera, a phone ping bouncing off a rural tower. But stack them together and a story begins to form. A story not of routine, but of rupture. Think about it. The morning began like any other. 6:42 a.m., Daniel's phone pinged near the Sullivan home. By 8:17 a.m., he was on camera, casually buying coffee. Neighbors described nothing unusual. A man in a black hoodie. Calm, alone, normal. But by 10:04 a.m., the cracks appeared. His silver pickup was spotted traveling east along Route 316, supposedly headed to a hardware store. That's what Daniel claimed. But the hardware store never saw him. No clerk, no receipt, no footage, no trace. So where did he go? Investigators turned to his phone. Data doesn't lie. His signal placed him not on Route 316 toward the store, but drifting miles away, toward the woods, toward isolation, toward a place where stories like this too often end. This is where the timeline fractures, where Daniel's words and Daniel's actions no longer align, and worse, where silence takes over. Because by noon, his phone connected briefly near McPherson's Lake, and then nothing. No calls, no data, no pings, just a blackout. 45 minutes where Daniel Martell ceased to exist in the digital world. And here's the truth investigators know better than anyone. Children don't vanish into thin air. Phones don't go dark for no reason. Timelines don't fracture unless something or someone force them to. To RCMP, this wasn't a glitch. It was intent, a gap deliberately carved into the record. And the more they dug, the clearer it became. Daniel's ordinary morning had bent into something darker, something unspeakable. This is what chills investigators most. Not what they confirm, but what remains missing. Because evidence always leaves traces, even when someone tries to hide them. And tonight, for the first time, we are tracing those steps, minute by minute, frame by frame. We are pulling apart the timeline of Daniel Martell's final hours before Lilly and Jack Sullivan disappeared. A timeline that begins with the ordinary hum of a quiet morning, but twists into silence, into deception, into something far more sinister. And it all begins at 6:42 a.m. At 6:42 a.m., Daniel Martell's phone connects to a tower near the Sullivan home. Nothing remarkable, just a digital footprint of a man waking up, moving about, starting his day. If you look at the raw data, it appears harmless, a father figure, still close to the house where Lilly and Jack would soon vanish. By 8:17 a.m., we have something stronger. Daniel walks into a small-town convenience store. The grainy security camera captures him alone, wearing a black hoodie. He buys coffee. Calm, nothing out of place. Witnesses later confirmed his presence, casual, unhurried, blending into the rhythm of an ordinary morning. This is the first anchor in RCMP's reconstruction. Undeniable, verifiable, logged. But what happens after that begins to bend the story. At 10:04 a.m., a roadside surveillance camera picks up Daniel's silver pickup truck traveling east along Route 316. In his official statement, Daniel told investigators he was headed toward a hardware store in the next town, an errand so ordinary it might have gone unquestioned. Except when RCMP checked, he never arrived. No clerk saw him. No transaction was logged. No video caught him walking through the doors. The hardware store's cameras captured other customers that day, each moving in and out, their timestamps clean. But Daniel's image never appeared. His name never printed on a receipt. This, investigators say, is the first real fracture, because the road Daniel was on Route 316, is a spine through rural Nova Scotia. From it, countless dirt trails splinter off into forests, lakes, and marshland. It is a road where you can disappear if you want to. And disappear is exactly what Daniel's timeline did. The RCMP turned his phone data. Phones leave ghosts, signals bouncing between towers, betraying movement no matter what story the owner tells. What they found contradicted Daniel's words entirely. Instead of staying on track toward the hardware store, his signal veered. By 12:15 p.m., Daniel's phone pinged a tower near McPherson's Lake, miles from where he said he had been. A place not on the way to anywhere. A place locals describe as isolated, known only to those who hunt fish or spend time in the woods. The contradiction was glaring. So the question becomes, why lie? Why claim the hardware store when your phone tells a different story? For investigators, this was no small discrepancy. It was a deliberate misdirection, and it shifted the tone of the entire case. Because if Daniel was willing to falsify something as basic as an errand, what else was he hiding? Neighbors would later recall seeing Daniel in that same black hoodie, standing near the driveway of the Sullivan home in the late morning. But the time doesn't line up cleanly. RCMP pieced a fragment together, and what emerged was not a straight line of truth, but jagged map of movements, each one more suspicious than the last. The morning that began with coffee and quiet roads had now turned into something darker, because Daniel was no longer just a man running errands. He was a man with a timeline that didn't fit. A man whose phone betrayed him. A man whose next steps led him not toward tools and supplies, but into silence. At 12:15 p.m., the last ping near McPherson's Lake registered, and then his phone went dark. The ordinary morning ended. The black hole began. From 12:15 p.m. to 1:02 p.m., Daniel Martell ceased to exist in the digital world. No pings, no texts, no sightings. It is almost as though he vanished into thin air. But investigators know better. Silence is not absence. Silence is action hidden, and it is in this silence that the most chilling theories take root. The concealment theory, the simplest, and perhaps the most haunting. In this scenario, Daniel used a blackout window to hide something: clothing, belongings, evidence, or worse, the children themselves. The woods around McPherson's Lake are vast, layered with caves, abandoned hunting blinds, even collapsed mine shafts that locals warn children away from. RCMP have searched extensively, but no team can cover every square foot. If Daniel carried something into those woods with intent to conceal, it could remain hidden indefinitely. The meeting theory, a darker possibility. What if Daniel wasn't alone? What if the silence was deliberate? Not just to disappear, but to rendezvous. Investigators have quietly explored the idea that another individual may be involved in the Sullivan children's disappearance. Someone Daniel trusted enough to meet in the middle of nowhere. Someone whose presence could rewrite the entire case. Was this silence not solitude, but collusion? The staging theory. The most calculated explanation. Daniel wasn't concealing. He wasn't meeting. He was staging. Moving items, dropping misleading evidence, adjusting the scene so that when the children were reported missing, investigators would follow false trails. If this is true, then every discovery, every blanket scrap, every sighting, every phone ping must be examined not as truth, but as manipulation. Each theory is terrifying in its own right. Each bends toward a different outcome. But all point to the same reality. Those 45 minutes are not empty. They are full of intent, of action, of choices Daniel has never explained. At 1:03 p.m., his phone reconnected to a tower near the Sullivan home. Just like that. Silent 1 minute. Active the next. 9 minutes later, at 1:12 p.m., a neighbor's camera captured him outside the house. Pacing, smoking, shoulders hunched, eyes darting as though every sound in the distance carried meaning. The void ended. But the unease lingered, because silence doesn't erase. Silence conceals. And what Daniel concealed in those 45 minutes may be the answer to where Lilly and Jack Sullivan went, and why they never came home. At 1:03 p.m., Daniel Martell's phone signal returned, as though nothing had happened. as though the missing 45 minutes were nothing more than a dropped connection. But investigators knew better. The gap was deliberate. By 1:12 p.m., the neighbor's camera locked him in place, pacing back and forth, smoking, restless, looking left, looking right. His posture slumped, then tense again. This was not the body language of a man running errands. It was the body language of a man unsettled, a man waiting, a man who knew something had shifted irreversibly. 9 minutes of footage captured his agitation, his nervous pacing, his compulsive glances toward the tree line, as though expecting someone or dreading something. This image would haunt investigators as they replayed it again and again. Then came 1:40 p.m., the last confirmed moment in the RCMP timeline. Malihia Brooks Murray, the children's mother, left the house in a separate vehicle. Her car pulled out of the driveway and disappeared down the road. That brief clip, unremarkable on its own, became haunting in hindsight. It was the last time either adult in that home was captured on any camera before the case dissolved into silence. After that, no new sightings. No more signals. The digital trail ended once again. This is where the RCMP's public timeline stops. But the questions only grow louder. Why did Daniel lie about the hardware store? Why did he go dark for 45 minutes near McPherson's Lake? Why did a witness claim to hear children's voices in the woods? And why was a scrap of pink fabric, so like Lily's blanket, recovered there? Every confirmed moment in Daniel's morning builds a shape, a jagged outline of movements, each pointing toward deception. And yet the center of that shape remains hollow. The missing children. The truth of Lilly and Jack Sullivan's disappearance is still out of reach. Investigators may already know more than they've shared. They may be holding back, waiting for the final piece, the irrefutable, evidence that closes the gap. But until that evidence surfaces, until the missing 45 minutes are explained, the timeline is a wound left open. And the haunting reality remains: 2 children vanished. One man's story fractured. And a community is still waiting for answers that have been too long in coming. Do you believe RCMP already has enough to charge Daniel Martell? Or are they holding back the truth? Let us know in the comments. And now we're left with one haunting truth. The RCMP timeline has stripped away the shadows and shown us Daniel, Martell's final hours before Lilly and Jack disappeared. Yet, even with all the evidence, the children are still missing, and their story remains unfinished. So the question falls to us, to you watching right now. Do you believe Daniel Martell's version of events? Or do the cracks in his timeline prove he knows more than he's saying? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because every perspective matters, and sometimes the smallest detail can spark the biggest breakthrough. If you want to see justice for Lilly and Jack, hit that like button so their story isn't forgotten, and subscribe so you never miss an update as this case unfolds in real time. The truth is coming. The only question left is, are we ready for what it reveals?